Oh, it's certainly a beautiful Monday, huh? You wake up, you look on Tulsi Gabbard's X page, and you see the most simple statement. Now, if you didn't have a background of what this statement's referring to, you wouldn't realize the out-and-out impact it has to anyone. That's why I started with nightmare confirmed. Anyone who served in the Biden administration. Well, they ought to be sweating bullets right now. Because what she's said in this simple post, thank you for your work. Actually, let's go larger. Thank you for your work. We are already on this and look forward to declassifying this and other instances of the government being weaponized against Americans. What does that mean? I'm going to tell you what it means. It's a lawsuit we covered for you a long time ago. And when this comes out in the wash, this is well beyond transparency. This is well beyond accountability. This is what we've been waiting for, and the story I'm going to bring you in just 1 minute. I promise you, the headline story is going to come rather quick. Shockingly, over the weekend, not a whole lot of big things happening. Well, except the fact that, Elon Musk and Trump were going to break up, and Trump's an idiot for his tariffs, and the tariffs are a horrible idea, and the stock market's going to crash, and the sky is falling, Chicken Little running everywhere. Well, until you hear the response coming out of the global community. Oh, wait, now that global order doesn't exist, except for when members of the global order admit it exists, and it's now dying.
There are very strong concerns right around the world about what's going on. Do you think that this is the week where the global order, and I don't want to sound grand or pompous about it, but do you think that actually the globalization as we've known it for decades is now over, that era where we can all get, cheap fast fashion or cheap TVs or cheap cars because globalization works in that way? Do you think that's done, over?
Yeah, it's ended. I mean, the Prime Minister said that himself this morning. Globalization, as we've known it for the last number of decades, has come to an end.
The Prime Minister referred to none other than Keir Starmer, listening there to Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Darren Jones of the UK. Globalization, as we know it, as we've known it for the last number of decades, has ended. So no matter what storylines you're hearing or reading, Trump has already botched his own bad tariff plans. This coming out of The Atlantic. Can't wait to get into this one. Sure, this is a phenomenal article, all for President Donald J. Trump. Of course, it's not. And to fuse them for you, I hope you'll subscribe. I hope you're already subscribed. If you think you are, double check that you are. Those of you who have joined as a member to show that additional support, thank you so much. The super thanks that many of you have flown in, thank you so much. Every time I see one of those go up, I can't tell you how appreciative I am. And something else I'm appreciative of, I hope you know by now, we got a new sponsor here, Noble Gold Investments, amazing company, especially right now with what markets are doing. Gold and silver sounds like a darn good idea, doesn't it? But let me give you the special offer from them. First step, you need to go to JustusKnightGold.com. You see the name there on your screen, because if your portfolio is over $250,000, this is especially appropriate right now, isn't it? And you aren't hedged, you're sitting on a ticking time bomb. Markets right now, especially, volatility and increased risk would be an understatement. A 10% allocation in gold and silver can help hedge uncertainty and protect your wealth. Noble Gold Investments makes it easy to hedge your portfolio with institutional-grade gold and silver right now. Every qualified investment will receive this 10th ounce gold coin. So if you want to protect your portfolio today, I need you to go to JustusKnightGold.com. And remember, there is always a risk to investing, no guarantees. But if there is a company that can help see you through all of that, it's Noble Gold Investments. Again, go to JustusKnightGold.com, JustusKnightGold.com. Need you there today. And thank you, Noble Gold Investments, for sponsoring this video. Donald Trump had a plan. It was not a good plan, or even a plausible one, but it was at least a coherent plan. By imposing large trade barriers on the entire world, he would create an incentive for American business to manufacture and grow all the goods the country previously imported. That's, well, they got to come up with an argument, right? Of course they have to come up with an argument so they can diffuse their own argument based on their own facts. The key to making it work was to convince businesses that new arrangement is durable. Nobody's going to invest in building new factories in the United States to create goods that until last week could be imported more cheaply unless they're certain that the tariffs make the domestic version more competitive will stay in place. Okay, that's what the tariffs were about, huh? Well, according to The Atlantic, it was because they created an argument they could diffuse. Trump aides grasped the dynamic. This is the great onshoring, the great reshoring of American jobs and wealth. Well, if we create an even marketplace, we could compete. And tariffs were simply here to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. In some way, they are. But here's their argument. Talking Points instructed its surrogates not to call the tariffs a leverage play to make deals, but to instead describe them as a permanent new feature of the global economy. Wait for it. This is freaking Atlantic gold. Once you've said you might negotiate, nobody's going to believe you when you change your mind and say you'll never negotiate. Now, I'm not exactly sure where they got that from. Has Trump ever stated these are non-negotiable? Have you heard it? I certainly haven't. We could just listen to Donald Trump himself, right? To the many investors, they keyed in on this phrase. To the many investors coming into the United States and investing massive amounts of money, my policies will never change. This is a great time to get rich, richer than before. My policies will never change. Not my tariffs are not negotiable. They pulled this out of the Washington Post article. Trump contradicts aides, talking points on purpose of global tariffs. Trump added, the tariffs give us great power to negotiate. They always have. But by stating that, he removed the power of tariffs? So if another country decides to lower their tariffs down so that our goods could flow into that country more competitively, Trump failed. That's according to The Atlantic. That's their argument. In a nutshell, it's a terrible one. I know it's a terrible one. I wouldn't want to be the last country that tries to negotiate a trade deal with real Donald Trump. The first to negotiate will win. The last absolutely will lose. I've seen this movie my entire life, from Eric Trump or from his U.S. National Economic Council director, who also states, well, I'll let him say it for himself.
I got a report from the USTR last night that more than 50 countries have reached out to the president to begin a negotiation. But they're doing that because they understand that they bear a lot of the tariff. And so,
once again, I'm sorry. I missed the point of the discussion.
Like, why are the herd and McDonald Islands, which don't export to the United States and are quite literally inhabited by penguins, why do they face a 10% tariffs? Did you use AI to generate this?
Yes, that was the question from Margaret Brennan. Did you use AI to generate? What is this? Only penguins inhabit the island. Well, in some ways, she's at least right in that point. But she missed a bigger picture. Like most people missed a bigger picture. The Heard Islands and McDonald Islands in Australian territory. Why did Trump impose a tariff on them? Well, Howard Lutnick comes out, gives her a definition, because we don't want them to be utilized as a mailing address for new imports coming into the country, bypassing the tariffs. And where did that come from? Because U.S. import data found that there was a recorded 1.4 million in goods, mostly machinery and electrical items, from the territory in 2022. But nobody knows how it happened. Of course not. According to the World Bank, investigations suggest this may stem from mislabeling shipments, an oopsie, that the Trump administration put into the tariffs. And much more of this is going to come out in the wash. Starmer again declaring the end of globalization. And of course, that doesn't exist anywhere. But now the real story. The big mamba jamba of stories, because we covered this in the beginning. So happy to be able to bring it to you again. AFL is urging Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, American First Legal. This lawsuit goes back a long way. It involves the Biden administration. An engine, a censorship engine, an intelligence engine to, well, it would appear at offset to hunt down their political opposition and silence them. So American First Legal launched an investigation. And they did this with Richard Grenell, who's, that's right, now in the Trump administration, isn't he? I'll go through the key facts in case you didn't see those original broadcasts. The AFL is now urging Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, to declassify and release the Biden administration's classified domestic surveillance and censorship strategy. The AFL is urging Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, to declassify and release the Biden administration's classified domestic surveillance and censorship strategy. The Biden administration weaponization of the intelligence apparatus against Americans must be fully exposed. Now, normally that would fall on deaf ears. Not this time. We'll go forward. In June of 2021, the Biden administration released an unprecedented 20-page strategy for a whole-of-society approach to countering domestic terrorism. There's the fancy manual, June 2021. AFL launched an investigation into the Biden administration's censorship plan, and the revelations are shocking. AFL's investigation exposed how domestic terrorism was used to justify the administration's censorship agenda, targeting its political and social opponents. As part of the Deep State Diaries, they called them, AFL exposed how the Biden administration had drafted a classified implementation plan described by one official as crisp and clear with defined responsibilities across the intelligence community. Imagine how many people in the Biden administration this will wrap up. That is the pain point, and our boss wants us to look into this. We must draft a strategy. The White House strategy has a classified implementation plan. It was crisp and clear and defined responsibilities. We are part of it, but not the biggest part. No, because the apparatus was huge. Develop a shared understanding. Prevent recruitment and mobilization. DHS is very much in the prevention lane. Disrupt and deter. Counter long-term contributors. Develop the strategy for what? Countering political opposition. Oh, they went into great detail. Nice to see some of the information came out. You go back to the origin of this. Today, we're releasing the fifth tranche of internal files from the Homeland Intelligence Expert Group obtained exclusively through our litigation with Richard Grenell against the Biden DHS. But Grenell's not in a position any longer to help with this, so who would be? Tulsi Gabbard would be. And they got a victory. So real was this, and this is the important part, folks. The Biden administration will dissolve and disband its unlawful DHS intelligence experts group stacked with deep state partisans like James Clapper and my least favorite person, John Brennan. The expert group shall be wound down. Let's go a little bit larger. Within 30 days of the entry of the order, it will not hold any future meetings, and the department will not reconstitute the experts groups inconsistent with the FACA or the Homeland Security Act of 2002. Whoa, this is real. But then it just fell to the wayside. Nobody really dug in. Nobody found the details. Nobody dug deeper. Who was involved? How were they involved? What did they do? What did it affect? How did we truly stop it? Did it reform? But that was then. When they said from the day President Biden took power, he had mobilized the national security state to support its censorship programs. This is going to make the release of the X-Files look like nothing. The Twitter files. Because of what Tulsi just came out and said. Because if you thought this was long forgotten, not so much. Thank you for your work. We are already on this. Oh, this was a great weekend. And look forward to declassifying this and other instances of government being weaponized against Americans. Under President Trump's leadership, we will bring transparency and accountability to end the weaponization of our intelligence community. This is why they fought so hard against Tulsi. One of many reasons they fought hard against her, agree with her or not. In this case, oh, she has a bone to pick with them. Remember what list she was put on. Because potentially And more than likely, if you research this enough, this exact apparatus. And now she's saying we will declassify it because Richard Grenell, who served on this lawsuit, again, no longer in a position to litigate it, but Tulsi is. And don't think Richard's going to let her forget about it either. PJ Media coming out, Tulsi Gabbard promises to expose Biden's surveillance state, and more specifically, anyone who served in the Biden administration ought to be sweating bullets right now because their worst nightmares coming true. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has publicly committed to exposing the previous administration's domestic surveillance and censorship programs. This program represents exactly why the Democrats fought so desperately to block her confirmation. But more importantly, for those of you that will say nothing will come out and nothing will happen, well, there's one guarantee against that. When it serves in the interest of the current administration and potential future moves of that administration, well, then those things tend to come out rather quickly. And this one is example number one of how it would ultimately benefit the current administration led by Tulsi Gabbard. And my friends, this time around, you will have a much different result. Because remember, some of the other things we're waiting for, the Epstein files, well, those kind of impact both sides of the aisle, as rumor has it. And so things move a little bit slower. This one impacts one side of the aisle, and those things tend to come out real damn quickly. And I will keep my eye on this because this was one of the largest breaking news stories over the weekend that I came across and did not want to skip bringing it to you. Man, if I was one of those who was involved in the old Biden administration, oh, we do know that Trump isn't real happy with you right now. And go ahead, you're pushing against him pretty hard. So what can he use to distract from Signalgate and deflect from everything with the tariffs that is being thrown upon him? There is nothing better than a good scandal to make that all come back into focus towards the efforts of the current administration. Tulsi, this is your opportunity to prove to all your naysayers that you are there representing we the people, a major public acknowledgement that should keep a lot of people from sleeping really well tonight. I love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.